as I just related my personal experience, I have not had a lot of preparation time, but I think that the main thing for us now is we're reviewing our year's performance. And I think it will be a happy meeting. Before we move into looking at the financial statements and the performance, I'd like to get a motion to approve the current bills. They're a little higher than usual as a total. I'm going to ask the board to approve $50,678.66. It's for a number of reasons. One is there are some renewals that, like a PodQuest renewal is $1,800. We had snow and salt costs that we've not encountered. Some of the utility costs are rising as well. And then there was another like $2,000 asbestos work, 2,050. And the printing for the annual appeal letter. So all those things would have pushed up the total, but none of them are anything other than our routine business expenses. Before asking for a motion, Paul, is there anything you'd like to point out on the current bills that we'll ask for approval on?
No, as you said, most everything is routine, but the asbestos work is connected to the masonry work that we're going to be doing on the north wall and the east wall. And I would say that that could come out of the construction account that is undesignated.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Paul?
I think that's it.
All right. Does anyone have any questions about the expenses?
Did I go ahead?
Ask, I thought we decided then that we were gonna do a shared screen where the things could put up so we could view them without having to
Yeah.
go back and forth. 'Cause
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that would
Absolutely. I'll
be
pull
very
that up
helpful.
right now.
Right.
I see we have another bill for the auditors.
Sickler, Torsha, Allen, and Churchill?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe that's their final, the final things, the reports and all that they had to do. So that was the final bill.
So do we know how much we paid overall for the audit?
I can look back at the reports and let you know.
Yeah, I would be curious how much it cost us.
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind, not now, but an email would be helpful.
There was also some additional consulting as well with them, wasn't there, over the year?
Yes, that was included, or you will see that if we give you the total.
Okay.
And Joy, you could separate that out, I assume.
Yep.
The
Jerry is,
consulting, fee.
yes. Jerry, is this okay with you? Are you able to see that okay? My screen?
She may be muted, I can't see.
Sorry. I'm just wondering, is it me or is it you that I can't scroll it? Maybe it's my.
It's me. I can scroll it for you. Is there a page that you specifically want?
No, I just was thinking, so we don't have the ability to scroll it.
No, unless, yeah, you do not. I have to control it.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Just let me know if I'm going too fast or if I need to go back. I did put the credit card bill in the Dropbox. Paul was able to give that to me. So if you, I can pull that up too if you want.
Is that included in this $50,000, 600 amount?
No, it's not.
Do we need to request it in addition to?
Hang on one second. It is right here, the credit card bill.
It's 400 something,
480.
486.
Now, Joy, if you hit that little right arrow would
Yep.
that make,
Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll and run it at the same time. It's just taking a second.
So that would be a different total then.
Yes.
1, 1, 5, 16. So I just did a quick. Let me get my calculator. Be sure. 1 second here. So the total that we will request from the board for approval is 51165 and 11 cents. So $51,165 and 11 cents. I'll repeat that, Marie, in case you didn't write it down, because we'll be asking for it. It's $51,165 and 11 cents. We're requesting for our December bills.
so 51,000.
$165 and 11 cents.
Okay, got it.
And
Thanks.
that includes a new amount for the credit cards, $486.45. Well, good. That was, that's good to have added. We don't have to do any workarounds afterward. Now, when we're ready, I think for me, the major excitement is where did we finish for the year? So we can go to the income statement.
Did we do the motion?
Nope, we didn't.
Oh, I know we didn't get a motion. Could I have a motion for $51,000, $165.11 for our December approval of the board for payment?
I so move.
I second.
Second?
Yep.
Evelyn or Jerry, would you like the second?
Jerry did. But I did.
Okay, you may have. My hearing is not as acute as most people's. Good, so Evelyn, okay, Marie and Evelyn, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. So now here we are on our income statement. And as with every other thing in 2020, this was quite a year of unknowns and challenges we didn't expect, and changes in our practices, concerns about reimbursements. Earlier in the year, in the springtime, we convened a special group to plan for reducing costs. And we did come up with a plan. it was roughly about a 10%, as I recall, reduction, which would have been, 5% for the time we were reducing. Fortunately, through savings, good management, I'm reluctant to say luck because it takes away from the hard work that everybody did and the cooperation that everybody did, the adjustments. So that effort was not needed to reduce costs, and we abandoned it in October. So we went with our full year budget and obviously not spending our full year's expenses and some subsequent reductions in revenue. So it was a challenge year as never encountered in my life. So if you could scroll down, Joy, to the bottom where the revenue is totaled. Here we are. So the budgeted revenue was 1,363,903. The actual revenue was 1,518,060.11, and it included the unanticipated contribution of $196,973, a bequeathed amount. But even without that, we did very well ourselves in addition to that. And when we come to the expenses, we can even that out. Are there any questions about the revenue section of the income statement?
I have a question in relation to the reconciliations. I see on here the 25,000 that we received from the foundation, but I don't see that deposited in the construction account.
We usually deposit everything into the operating and then it gets transferred out into the accounts that it's supposed to go to. And that just happened recently, so it wouldn't show on that reconciliation for December.
So I can expect to see that next month?
Yes.
But to complete your sentence, to make your sentence more clear to me, you expect to see it in the income statement next month or in the account reconciliation next month?
In the account reconciliation, and that's supposed to go into construction. not-
Okay,
Okay,
so those two things do not happen simultaneously in the same framework?
correct, you're right.
Okay. Do you have any more discussion on that, Marie?
No, I don't. I did have one other short question. I know that we pay credit card charges when somebody charges on their credit card for Navigator cards.
Yes,
Where does that, what does that fall under? Does that show less under the revenues from the special services, or is it a separate charge under?
I put it, normally it's been put under miscellaneous admin because the state asks for a report on credit card charges. So that's where we put that part.
Okay, thank you. I just wondered.
Sure.
All right, if we could move on to look at the expenses and probably just slowly scroll down so people can eyeball it or view it is a better way to say it. All right. So as we see this month, we had less in current expenses than was budgeted, which has been common because of the efforts we made to adjust our spending. For the year to date, our expense total is $141,065.19, which includes the $10,000 in capital projects. So for the upper one, it's $151,301. Effectively, have less expenses, which is a credit to everybody involved. And the nicest thing is that it brings us to a net income on the year to date of $295,222.30. So subtracting the nearly $200,000 in unanticipated gift income, our basic management, between good fortune with the tax levy, good management with everybody's participation, we've had a successful, stabilizing year in this very upset year. And I think credit goes to everybody involved. The attention to expenses and revenue throughout the year has been, it should be praised. I mean, many businesses, particularly service businesses, the buy-in to manage entirely, the fiscal as well as the service, is not always so strong. And the library and its staff and its leadership balance that in a very effective way. And I think the results here are shown, and I praise everybody. It's a spectacular year given the challenges of the year. Does anybody have any questions about either the expenses or the outcomes for the year? Or any other statements, Paul or Marie or anybody?
I was wondering what Paul thought about whether we have sufficient cash on hand to make it until our next major tax payment in March.
Yes, we do. That hasn't really been a problem this year.
Of course.
Well,
You know that, do others know that the city has, I'll say, postponed the due date by, I believe, a month for property taxes?
no, I had not heard that. For the collection of the taxes or the issuing of the taxes to us?
The issuing the
21
tax is
days.
already out, but the due date was extended, I believe, by 1 month for the
Okay.
first
No.
Yeah,
installment.
they're now due
One day.
February 21st.
February 21st. 21 days extension.
Will that impact our annual expectation by 1/12, Paul?
Well, not really. I mean, we may see the first payment as less. But that first payment is usually, pretty large. At this point, I think our cash position is such that, that extension is not going to be a problem.
Okay. So we received a tremendous amount of the tax levy on March 4th. We expect it delayed 1 month. So the large amount will likely arrive in April?
Yeah, they may send smaller amounts as well because, they will be collecting taxes anyway. I mean, I would expect a lot of people will pay on their regular basis the end of January. So they will process those payments and send us a check when they're done processing, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on the income statement at all? Well, I've given my praise and my summary. I just wanted to announce I won't be at the board meeting. A friend of mine died apparently on Sunday, and it was discovered Monday. And his family came up from New York, so I'm going to go join them. He lived in Half Moon, and it was obviously a shock. He was just 60, but anyway, so his sister and his niece are here, so I'm going to join them. And it won't be available for the board meeting. I had alerted Marie to that effect, so she's well aware of that and can carry on. Well, with that, I would propose that we close the finance meeting. We have a motion to close.
I so move.
Thank you. A second?
I second.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody opposed to closing our meeting? Well, with that, we have unanimous approval. Thanks very much. And if we're very, very fortunate, we'll have another year of the kind that we had. And it's very pleasing to be a part of a well-functioning service organization. Thank you. All righty. I'm going to leave the meeting.
Bye, Bob.
Bye. Thanks. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Sure.
I'll just pause the recording for now, Marie.
Yes, because we do. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. Why don't we move to Carolyn? Carolyn, you have the floor.
Great. My understanding is I'm here to let some people know what exactly I do here at the library, or what we do. What am I doing here? So my name is Carolyn Fagan, for those of you who don't know me. I coordinate the adult programs here at the Troy Public Library. I've been in this position since 2013, and I've been at the library since 1992. Prior to my present position, I would manage the Lansbury Bridge. So adult programs, they consist of local history lectures, book discussions, gardening and interior design programs, craft programs, general knowledge lectures. We've done employment assistance programs, which unfortunately don't turn out to be as popular as we would like them to be for some reason. We've done everything from job search online, resume writing, how to write a cover letter, interview skills. We do movie screenings, travel programs, you name it, we pretty much have tried it all. The budget, as you know, for programming is relatively small. So we look to supplement that through grants and volunteer facilitators, as well as hosting many of the programs ourselves, the employees here at the library. In the past, we've received the Humanities New York Reading and Discussion Grant over 10 times. With their support, we hosted a discussion group entitled Muslim Journeys, led by Imam Jafar of the Al Hidayah Center in Latham and Troy, which won us the 2017 Upper Hudson Program of the Year. Since the fall of 2018, also with the support of Humanities New York, we have written the curriculum and facilitated our own discussion group entitled Uncovering and Recovering Race in America, which is led by Dr. Jennifer Thompson Burns, who is a professor in Albany. We've had 5 different sessions of this discussion group. It's proved immensely popular, and we have applied to hopefully host it again this spring. In September of 2014, we launched our ever popular Understanding Shakespeare group, where retired Shakespeare scholar and Siena English professor Tom Bolger voluntarily leads our discussion. We've met to discuss over 27 plays, one act at a time, and the sonnets. We host 2 monthly book group discussions, one at Lansingburgh and one at Maine. The one at Lansingburgh has been meeting since 2010 with some of the original participants still there. And we try to do author visits as well as Skype events with some of the book discussions. We regularly receive the New York State Council on the Arts Decentralization Regrant Program through the Arts Center of the Capital Region. We run creative arts, creative writing. We work with local businesses and artists to offer different programming. We've done music programs, film programs. We also run the summer and winter adult reading programs, the Shorts Out Loud program, which is Thursday evenings. Pre-COVID, it was in the courtyard, where we would have acoustical music followed by the reading of a short contemporary story. This one also won the Upper Hudson Program of the Year before my time. COVID has definitely made us adapt. We are currently conducting all of our program virtually. Since the shutdown, we've hosted over 60 evenings of virtual programming, lots of Zoom in there, with over 800 people attending. This has included programs with multiple events, many of which I already mentioned. We've also hosted a number of single events, such as edible landscaping, gardens of the Hudson Valley. We had a author visit with Devlin Barrett to talk about his new book, October Surprise. We had a professor from Hudson Valley run a program entitled The Supreme Court Nomination. You have questions, we have answers. He also talked about the election and the Electoral College prior to the election, which was very timely. So that's pretty much, what we've been doing. And, it's been great to be able to switch to virtual. I fear that we've lost some people because some people don't have the technology skills or the desire to join us as a virtual program. On the other hand, we've picked up people that we would never have had before because they do like it. So my thought is that when this is all, we get beyond this, we would probably maintain some kind of a balance between the two. I can't see us doing totally away with virtual now that we've gotten into it. People seem to enjoy it, but people really do miss meeting face to face and having these discussions in person. So we're definitely, people want to get back in the building at some point. So I don't know if you have any questions. I can clarify anything.
Hi, I'm Brianna. I'm one of the new board members. I just had a general question of how do you ascertain community interest in, like, how do you choose what kind of programs to offer? Is it about like what's available and who volunteers to run a program? Are you taking ideas from the community? Is it a little bit of both?
It's
Just
a little
curious.
bit. Yeah, we've conducted surveys in the past, asking people for their, input as to what kinds of programs they would like to see. We also, sometimes it's just somebody volunteers for something and we give it a try because, they have that expertise and they're willing to do it for us. A lot of it is we'll see something like this House Plans 101 where we have 40 people registered and say, okay, the light bulb goes on, gardening is popular, let's look for some more gardening programs, that kind of thing. Like I said, we've run a number of employment, which I've always thought should be something that people would really like and really need, but for whatever reason, they're really not as well attended. We did run a couple of times with Small Business Administration about how to open your own business. That was very well attended. Oh.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
And nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Brianna.
I've certainly heard good things about the Shakespeare program.
Those people are like, they are diehard. They love it.
If we stop that, we're all in trouble.
And really, how can you not? Tom Bolger, for, I don't know, it's been since 2014 or 15, I don't, maybe it's 15, every Thursday night, 3 sessions or 4 sessions a year, we nominated him last year for Volunteer of the Year. Unfortunately, he didn't get it, but we will nominate him again.
Yeah.
Yes. He's fun. He's just so much fun.
Oh, he is. He's a character.
And you know, I will say as a comment, not a question, we had one instructor for Short Story Cafe. When he moved to one of the Carolinas,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
liked
Yep.
it
He
so
moved to
much
Myrtle Beach.
he is still running the discussion group from.
Yes.
from
Yeah, and
his-
we're starting up again in February. And that's another one. Now that's an interesting one where like people, because we've done that virtually, like people have let people know who they're friends with. So we have a woman joins us from Wyoming now, you know, so it's kind of an interesting, our spread has been a little bit bigger than it used to be in some ways.
So Paul had mentioned a couple of meetings ago that you were concerned that there are people we're not able to reach.
Yes, I am.
Have you had any ideas on?
Well, you know, unless you can open up the building, those people I don't think you are going to reach, you know, I mean, there's certain people who will never join us digitally, you know, and unfortunately as well, even if you wanted to attend a program, the majority of them are in the evening and the library is not open. So if you wanted to come and use the computer's library to join, you kind of, yeah, I mean, obviously Zoom is on smartphones, so you could if you wanted to, but it's more, I would say it's more older people, but that's not true. I mean, you know, I look at the demographics for Shakespeare and they're mostly older people and they've adjusted well. So, you know, but of course we're missing people who, like the Lansingburg book group that used to be between 10 and 15 people is down to 4 because the majority of those people just aren't interested in doing it we did meet once outside, socially distanced. Everybody had to bring their own chair. And, you know, that kind of bumped the number up a little bit, but not this time of year.
Well, spring's coming.
Yes. Yep.
Anybody else have questions for Carolyn?
Thank
Gee,
you
I
for the-
have plenty of,
I was going to say thank you for the programs you do offer. I think I've heard a lot of positive feedback from diverse people on programs, and I've participated in the Barrett book presentation. I thought it was great. So thank you for putting, and like you said, there are some opportunities that have been created by this digital environment. So thank you for exploring them and being creative with it.
Thank you.
Like I said, this might inform some opportunities for the future. And then how to reach those other folks. It's an ongoing challenge. So I look forward to any thoughts you may have on that.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, it's one of those things because, you know, a lot of the people that we get to register now, we find them through social media as much as anywhere else. I mean, we still send out press releases to all the newspapers and all the other media outlets, but it seems like the majority of our attendees are coming from those platforms. So then you start to feel like you're missing some of those other people, and the advertiser, which used to be a huge pull for us, is not as local as it used to be. So I don't know if it's not as broadly distributed, I don't believe, as it used to be. So that's kind of dropped off for us a little bit.
It's part of, it comes if you have a Times Union subscription, it now comes with that.
Right.
Thursdays.
It apparently comes with the Troy Record as well.
And I get, because I don't have paper delivery anymore, I get mine in the mail. I get the advertiser with some of the literally the weekly ads in the mailbox. So they're trying, but I think it's harder for them too to get out.
Yes. Yeah, it is. So yeah, if you ever have any suggestions, we're more than open to.
so you mentioned a couple of constraints, a small program budget, the difficulties with COVID. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much, you know, well, space, obviously, like even when we're open, it's very hard for us. You've got adult programming trying to schedule at the same time. Children's programming is trying to schedule. You have one big room, so when we are in the building, that makes it a little difficult. So this, this whole virtual thing might alleviate that to a point, but as I said, people really like to be in the building, and it is hard. I mean, we don't have that much space.
So are we set up to have people in an audience and doing Zoom at the same time? Do we have that capacity? Thinking about going forward.
If we wanted to do it in the building and broadcast it as well.
Mhm.
I don't know how much it would take to really, I guess it would be a nice, you'd have to have a good camera and a good microphone. I think that would be,
Yeah, I think
Pretty
that's
easy.
possible. I don't.
yeah, I think that would be pretty easy to do.
Talking with some of the teachers for the schools who are trying to do that very thing.
Right.
There are some challenges to teaching to a screen or a device, and also teaching to students in the same room. So
Right.
there are some technical challenges, having the right equipment, but then there are also some logistical challenges in terms of how to use that equipment in real time. So it's not easy.
Right. And yeah, certainly it might work better for a lecture type thing, but for a discussion group,
Right.
I can't imagine that that's going to be.
Yeah, I think in the future that could really increase the number of people we reach with some of these programs.
Carolyn, do you also,
Yes.
again, as a patron and user of the programs,
Frequent attendee.
yeah, I love that hat. Do you see too constraints about some of the types of classes that you can put on in, we were talking about space and having the size of space and numbers of rooms, but the types of programs too, because I'm thinking of some of the cooking classes or
Obviously, yeah, we did
running
some.
water,
Yeah, we've done some cooking demo type things. We've done some like cake decorating. We did have a cookbook author come and do, he brought his own stuff though. He brought his own like little electric burner and that kind of thing. So yeah, we have no sink or anything like that. So that makes those types of, and even craft programs, it makes it difficult because we have no real facilities for something like that. And even, I would say, although the art gallery is a really nice room in some ways, like for music, it can be really nice. The acoustics in there are pretty good, but for a discussion group, especially with some older patrons, it can be a very echoey room for people to be in. And sometimes we lose people because of that, because they just feel like they can't hear well enough. It's an old building. It's not anything we don't know. Or
I think in any of the libraries built in the last 25 years or so, they're built with the large meeting rooms, and there's always a kitchenette attached to that meeting room, so you can do those kinds of programs.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, why don't we let Carolyn go so she can get her next program.
I'm going to go learn about houseplants and hopefully record it. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Nice night.
Okay, so the next item is the Treasurer's report and approval of expenditures. And many people were already at the Finance Committee. Bob can't be here. He was complimentary or proud of how well the library has done financially this year, and spent some time talking about that. Even though we were concerned about the adequacy of our revenues for the last year, we did quite well and look to be doing well positioned going into this year and being able to pay our bills until we get the next large revenue check. The committee did recommend that the board approve payment of the bills. Does anyone want to make that motion? Usually Bob does it. He's not here.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments before we take the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Again? Against? Abstaining? Approval passes unanimously. I had attended or watched one of our recordings recently, and I noticed that it doesn't display who all's there. It just shows the speaker. And so I thought it might be helpful if we could do a roll call of our board members and then possibly a couple of the other people who are there here. So Evelyn Greenstein, Brianna Clark,
Here.
Jerry DeSev. I think I heard her say here. Michelle Hayward Cooper.
Here.
Kirsten Lorcher.
I am here.
And I'm Marie Gavazzi. We also have our director, Paul Hickok, and our business manager, Joy Chard. Okay. And we have some, I believe, one guest tonight. Thank you.
Here, it's Freda.
Hi, Freda. Thank you. Okay, we have the consent agenda. It includes approval of the minutes, both for the December 8th meeting and the special board meeting held on the 18th, the safety plan, the building committee report, administrative committee report, UHLS report, and the president's report. Does anyone want to remove any of these items from the consent agenda?
Is there a president's report? I didn't see one.
There isn't. I'm just listing what's on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Do we need to, this is Michelle, if we don't have a president's report, and this may be my ignorance here, should we remove it off the agenda? Just like we don't have an administrative committee report, and that's often on there. Should it be, does that mean we then take it off the agenda because there isn't one, or do we leave the consent agenda as it is because it's a placeholder for when there is one?
We've been leaving it as it is, as a placeholder. And then I believe that you then record what was actually.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Available.
I just usually take off if there's no administrative committee report, I just take it off. But I just wanted to make sure, that was my assumption, but I have been known to make bad assumptions. So I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think I heard Jerry. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. The next item is the historic structure report.
Thank you, Marie. Before we jump into that, I wanted to thank Michelle for asking the question about the consent agenda. I also had questions about it. So thank you, Michelle, for asking, but I did not ask, so I appreciate it. So I think most people here have participated in this conversation regarding the historic structures report. But for the record, I'd like to at least make a brief summary of this. And that is to say that an RFP, a request for proposal, was issued for a historic structures report and an associated building modernization study for the Hart Memorial Library. 3 proposals were solicited from Misek Cohen Wilson Baker, Lacey Thaler Riley Wilson, and John G. Wace Associates, who all have extensive knowledge and background in historic buildings and historic structures reports. Proposals were received from all 3 firms, and interviews were scheduled with all 3 firms. I believe it was the 28th of December, Monday, the 28th of December, we got together with each of these firms and representatives of the building committee and the administration. We met for an hour with each firm and did Q&A, brief discussion of what their proposal included and what was not included. Very constructive and positive discussion was had. And then on the 8th of January, Friday, the 8th of January, the building committee had a special building committee meeting to review the proposals and discuss the interviews. During that meeting, there was discussion of the proposals, and then let's see, we had a straw poll to get a sense of where people were, whether there was general consent of who to choose or who not to choose. There was not, initially there was not unanimous consent. There was then discussion of the various proposals. And there was then after that discussion, there was then a straw poll to see if any of the participants, including the administration, had any concerns with a recommendation to award a contract for the historic structures report to Misek Cohen Wilson Baker. And there were no reservations expressed at that time. There was a question about testing and whether testing was included as part of this proposal and whether testing would be required to complete the historic structures report and modernization study. So had follow-up conversations with Larry Wilson, the principal in charge, who made the presentation for Misek Cohen Wilson Baker. Larry then followed up with a second visit to the Troy Public Library, the Hart Memorial Library building today, to review existing marble on the building, to confirm his understanding of existing conditions and whether any additional information would be required to complete the historic structures report. To let everybody know, the proposal from Misek Cohen Wilson Baker does not include testing as part of their proposal. However, Misek Cohen Wilson Baker does not anticipate that any testing will be required for historic materials. That would be for paint or for marble or for plaster, for instance. They do not anticipate that any testing will be required in order to complete the historic structures report for materials. The one place where testing may be required is if crack monitoring determines that there is active movement in the building. There had been a question about whether crack monitoring was included as part of their proposal. Yes, crack monitoring is included as part of their proposal. And that is I'll say a basic crack monitoring strategy or system that does not include elaborate interactive computer or telecommunications devices, but would be, I'll say, simple mechanical devices to monitor cracks in or on the building and see how that progresses. If there is a finding that there are cracks that are moving in such a manner that would require immediate investigation and it is necessary to do destructive testing to open up an enclosed portion of the building, remove stone, or to remove a portion of plaster to be able to see inside the structure of the building. Costs associated with that testing are not included in their proposal at this time. So if it's necessary to do investigations of that depth at this time, there could be costs associated with that. In addition, if there are hazardous materials or suspected hazardous materials that would be affected by such investigations, the hazardous materials would also need to be tested at the library's expense. Now we have some historic data that's been gathered in the past about hazardous materials, and that information would then, of course, be used to assess known hazardous materials. But if there are materials that are discovered that are unknown and maybe suspect, that could be an additional cost. That hazardous materials portion, as well as the destructive testing portion, I think are consistent across all three proposals that we received, in that they are not costs that are included in those proposals to do destructive testing or hazardous materials testing. A few of the other proposals did mention they had included costs for testing, but my understanding is that that testing was for assessing materials, paint types, or plaster types, perhaps. It's Larry Wilson's professional opinion that they would be able to gather enough information based on their visual inspection, review of historic documents, and from experience of the building itself. So, are there any questions or thoughts about testing or costs associated with the proposals as we received it?
Yeah, I think that was why I initially was not in favor of the Messick proposal, because it sounded like it could be a lot of extra expense, where the others, it seemed to me, had included some testing and some evaluation of different conditions in the building that it didn't seem like Messick was covering. So I'm wondering if we should go back to the others and do a comparison of what they actually will give us for.
So I have
compared to
reviewed the proposals
for free.
and did not find any costs that would be of a magnitude that would include destructive testing on the building. I think that,
Right.
that is not included in any of the proposals we've seen to date.
Gotcha.
And certainly, I don't believe any of those companies are qualified to do hazardous materials testing, and that would remain in the library's purview at any rate. So I think my understanding is that the Lacey Thaler proposal
Yeah,
included
just
some has. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, just as long as we're comparing, apples to apples, and they're kind of coming out equal.
So I am confident that the none of the proposals included costs for destructive testing or patching of destructive testing or hazardous materials testing. So I think Larry Wilson was just being explicit in our conversations that we had since our meeting as a committee on Friday in response to our questions on this topic. And I would feel comfortable moving forward with the recommendations we previously had developed. Any other thoughts or concerns? Then to bring this then full circle, at our meeting on Friday, there was a motion made from the committee, and the committee moved, made the following motion. We move to recommend to the Board of Trustees, we move to recommend the Board of Trustees of the Troy Public Library accept the proposal received from Misek Cohen Wilson Baker to prepare a historic structures report and associated facilities assessment or facilities modernization study as described in the RFP dated 12 November 2020. And that motion was voted on by the board members present, and the motion carried unanimously at the committee meeting. I'm sorry, Marie, you're muted.
Are you making the motion to select Misek and all?
So if there are no further questions, then I would make that motion, yes. So are there any questions at this time? No? Then I would move that the Board of Trustees accept the proposal received from Misek Cohen Wilson Baker to prepare a historic structures report and associated facilities assessment or facilities modernization study as described in the RFP dated 12 November 2020. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Any abstaining? The motion carries unanimously.
I abstain.
Oh, I'm
Gary,
sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear you. Okay. So,
I abstain.
so 5 in favor, 1 abstention. Thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the board, and look forward to this process and next steps. We'll keep you posted. Would it, for next steps on this specific piece here, should I reach out to the proposers? Paul should reach out to the proposers, or any thoughts on this?
Paul, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that Kirsten reach out to the proposers.
Ah, surprised.
I sort of have a working relation with at least one of them, which, since it's a board decision, I wanted them to know it's a board decision. So
Can do.
I think that would be good.
And there'll be a contract that'll get drafted up, and we'll keep that posted as it comes along.
So Kirsten, you're going to be contacting Misek. What about the other two? Who's going to?
I'm comfortable contacting them if that's okay with everybody.
You're going to contact all 3? Okay.
Yeah. I think at the very least, we should give them the courtesy of a return comment, thank them for their time. And if they have any questions, I can give them general guidance on observations of their proposals without getting into the weeds of any specifics. If that's okay with everybody.
That sounds good.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is library accounts. Paul, were you going to speak to this?
Yes, I was. The there are several accounts that the library has. Well, let me start by saying that the amount of money that's in our bank accounts has increased substantially. And it's definitely over the $250,000 insured amount. And we do have a separate what's called the investment account, which is not part of the regular bank insurance, FDIC insurance program. The investment account is actually a money market account, but the account is backed up by collateral. Excuse me, I'm having a lot of trouble here. So that it's not included in the insurance program through the FDIC. The accounts that we have, in addition, we have the investment account, but we also have two construction accounts. What we call the designated instruction account, which is actually where we deposit monies from grant sources that are specifically earmarked for particular construction projects. And we also have what we call the undesignated construction account, or just a construction account, which is funds that have come to the library through donations, through bequests, and through the foundation. Well, I say the foundation, that's actually specifically for, that goes into the designated account, but the undesignated account is used primarily to match construction money for particular projects, but it doesn't have to be completely for that purpose. So it could be a general construction account, could also be considered part of a reserve account. What I'm recommending that we do is to move those construction accounts into our investment account. And then track, provide a report to the board of where the money's coming and where it's going. Basically, those construction accounts were set up so that we could keep track of the money, keep that track of the funding. But in reality, our bookkeeping system, can easily handle that operation. This would, now this also means that from the general operating account, we have to use the investment account as well. Because we do receive two large payments from the city, which pushes us well over the $250,000 insurance limit. So that money also has to be moved into and out of the investment account. But I think the best way to go is to consolidate those construction accounts into the investment account at this point. Am I making sense? Hopefully.
So I'm assuming that because the money market account actually maybe makes a little money on it too. I mean, is that true? It's got some kind of a little tiny, yeah, I know interest rates are pretty low. So because we're doing well enough, like we're not borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, that we can, it's like, I guess what I'm asking is, do you just feel like overall there's too much money spread in too many different places, or that there's a benefit that just makes more sense to just have it all put together and it's got the extra benefit of having insurance?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think you said you hit on both of them. You do have a small amount of interest on from the investment account. And also, you know, that if we have a report from the controller's office, they're going to bring up the fact that we have too much tax money in our account and it's not insured. And the controller's office recommendation, of course, is, you know, you need to stay within the insured limits with tax money. And like I said, the investment account is a money market account, but it's also backed up by collateral. So it's basically guaranteed. The money is safe. Yes.
So is that limit a limit per bank account, or is it an aggregate of all the bank accounts held within one bank for
Yeah,
us? Or is
It's
it
a limit per customer.
per customer, per bank?
It includes all of our accounts.
And do we get any interest on the bank account at all, or no interest at all?
What's that?
Do we get any interest on the bank account?
Oh, no, that's, yeah.
Even
That's
even less than the money market account.
Yeah, if we get $200 on the investment account, we get 50 cents.
Right.
It's that fun. There are other investments that we do qualify for based on the controller's office guidelines, et cetera, and the law. For example, you know, treasury bills or any obligations of the federal government or state governments are allowed, and these would be in you know, other investment accounts. So in some point we could move in that direction, but I in speaking to our banker, right now those interest rates aren't much different than the investment account rates that we have. So moving that around anywhere probably isn't going to make anything. Yeah.
I think the bigger concern at this time is making sure we're fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility by making the cash that we do have more securely kept. While I don't think KeyBank is going to fail, I think that we could be criticized by the controller's office and also our constituents for not keeping in mind the $250,000 limit for being insured.
Are there any pluses or minuses to having multiple investment accounts?
Yeah, as I say, when I first looked into this a while ago, there was an advantage to, you know, purchasing some other investment
Instruments?
Instruments, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And I assume that at that point that would say, okay, this is another account. But again, it's different than your regular bank account, which is again only insured to 250,000. So, but as I say, right now, the way things are, it really isn't going to be. There's no advantage to us at this point to compensate that.
Has Bob weighed in on this at all? Does anyone know if Bob has considered this or has an opinion on this?
Yeah, we had reviewed that in the finance committee a couple of times. And yeah, he was on board with that. Marie, wasn't he? I believe.
I think he has suggested that we run this past our auditors to see what they would say about it. And I think that's a good idea, a good suggestion. The idea isn't, although it would all be, all these separately designated portions of money would be all in the one investment account. They would be tracked in our accounting separately, so that we would still know how much we had in the designated construction account, or the term I've been using, construction fund, and how much we would have in the undesignated construction fund. And we may choose, now that we have more money, to establish other types of funds, like a reserve fund, that where we can feel that we have a buffer, since we can't borrow money should the tax revenues not come through when we anticipate, that we can still pay our bills. So I would suggest that we pursue this during the next month and then present it through the Finance Committee, with the opportunity to make sure that what we're considering is appropriate financially, according to the view of the auditor.
Yeah, I'm surprised our auditors haven't brought this up before, but when I think about it, we haven't always had this kind of money available in our account. You know, we've got 3 or 4 different construction projects. We've got funds for those. The state sends us 90% of those funds. We've got a considerable amount in the undesignated construction account now for matching. And then, of course, very recently, we received a pretty large request. So I guess it was easier to overlook before. It's getting to the point where we probably shouldn't.
And you may be thinking, well, is it appropriate for us to be accumulating this amount of money, considering that we receive tax revenues? And my understanding is, if you can justify the fact that you're setting these aside for a purpose, that's acceptable. But if you don't have a reason, you're just accumulating funds and looking to taxpayers to allow you to do that rather than using those funds, then that would be objected to by the State Controller's Office.
And I've seen reports where they have objected.
I would imagine the taxpayers would object too.
Could be.
So can we agree to table this then and until the next meeting, and give Bob and Paul the opportunity to get further input regarding how we should proceed? Paul, is that agreeable to you?
One of the questions that occurred to me later on, and I haven't really investigated this yet, but you know, I'm curious to know if funds that are not from the taxpayer, can they be invested differently? And that I would have to get an answer from the Controller's Office.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, in other words, the bequest is, you know, it's not tax dollars. It may be something that we can invest in a different fashion, because most of the things that we can invest tax dollars in don't have much interest.
Excellent question.
Or much appreciation.
Well, I didn't think that money market funds were insured, FDIC. Are they FDIC insured?
No, these are guaranteed by collateral.
What does that mean? I don't know what you mean by that. Would you mind explaining?
how do I say? The investment account is supported by collateral. I mean, it's guaranteed.
It's supported by what?
Not being a banker, I really don't quite understand everything involved, but we can talk to our banker who is from Key Bank and get a better description of that, how that works, if you want.
Yeah, that would be good because I didn't, I mean, if I don't know why you'd leave it in something that wasn't guaranteed by FDIC. I don't know what this guaranteed by collateral means, and it'd be good to have clarification on that.
Basically, it's guaranteed by asset.
Right. But it's our assets, so we're
Yeah,
still
which
not sure
ones I
No,
don't-
but not our assets, their assets.
Not really a banker, so.
whose assets, the bank's assets.
Key Bank's assets, right?
I guess,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Who, I think it's whoever holds the fund. They put the
They
collateral.
send us a report. I can send that to you folks. They send us a report which outlines the actual collateral.
Oh, okay.
That would be good.
Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyway.
Paul, didn't you say this is a type of account that's specifically for municipalities?
Yes. Yes, it's
So
designed.
the bank has to keep this much money in reserve, I think is what the bank is required to keep a certain amount of money in reserve, which would guarantee the deposits that are in the bank. I think that's what that means, that it's guaranteed by their collateral, by their assets.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a banker, so I'm not 100% sure how all of that works. But I can get a banker to let you know how that works.
Okay, that'd be great. I'd be very just curious how that works. And what the difference is between that and the FDIC insurance, if any.
There are other types of insurance of account of financial instruments as well as the FDIC. I'm not saying that with the investment account, that's another type of insurance, but other types do exist.
Are these different types regulated by New York State? So that there's a New York State seal of approval on these things?
Well, that's what we do. I mean, we're attempting to follow the controller's recommendations. The idea of the investment account, however, is a legal requirement that we have as a municipality. Set up originally by the bank. As a matter of fact, our banker is the person in charge of municipalities and municipalities and their deposits and their requirements. Actually, she will answer any questions that trustees have. If you wanted to email her, or I can give you the address and she can explain probably better than I can. In addition, we do get the reports every month outlining what the collateral is for the investment accounts.
Yes.
Jerry, if you said something, it didn't come clearly.
I said I'm just curious. I can check with some people that I know from Department of Financial Services as well. Maybe they can clarify it for me.
I can understand that because it isn't something that we as ordinary.
Oh, looks like Marie's locked
Marie
up.
frozen?
Looks like it.
It might have froze.
Yeah, she did.
Citizens deal with since it's, am I frozen?
You
Yeah,
were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're back.
Good.
It is saying my internet connection's unstable though. So we'll explore this further and plan to discuss it at the next Finance Committee. The next item is the director's report.
Yeah, couple of things. Last week I contacted Securitas for starting up the security guard program again. You know, when we switched to appointments only, that first couple of days, there was a lot of activity, a lot was going on, and we were kind of concerned that we didn't have security. So I set up so that they would provide us with a security guard. He came in, stayed a couple of days. Then there was to be a replacement that he needed to train. I guess this was Friday, yeah. And she informed us that her niece had been tested positive for COVID-19. And what hit me was that not every organization is following safety standards as we are. I thought, you know, it would kind of be something they would understand, but apparently not. But in the meantime, the appointment program is working out well. And we just don't have the kind of traffic that we would normally have when we're open. So I weighed those two things and said that it wasn't worth the risk that right now of having a security guard come in. So I kind of suspended that again until such time as we reopen. Fundraising, it's been a little strange. This year, so far, we've seen $19,220 in donations as a result of our annual fundraising campaign. What was strange about it is that when we first were starting to receive responses and letters, there was only one or two. I mean, it was very, very slow. And last week, the mail suddenly came in with 85 responses all at once. So I don't know what they were doing at the post office, to be honest. But we were glad to find that our campaign is a lot more successful than we thought. There is overhead expenses of $2,395 for mailing and reproducing the letter and that sort of thing. So we have a net of $16,824 to date. And again, down here, I said at least 1,172 of that we have received through our website electronically. We are still at the same level as we have been. It's by appointment only, limit of 10 people in the building at any one time. And as I said, I think it's been relatively, calm, and we're pretty easily able to handle the traffic for that. So I think it's important for us to continue at this level as long as we can. I know that other libraries are cutting back to curb service only. But I think in our particular circumstance, it's been, I think it's a good thing that we're able to offer the services that we can at this point to our community. That's about it, other than the meeting law has been extended again. They keep doing it month by month. I don't know why.
Does anybody have any questions for Paul?
I just wanted to double check the temperature of the staff in terms of, are they still comfortable with the appointment only? Have you heard from them about their level of comfort with that versus going back to curbside?
Yeah, I think people generally are comfortable with that. It seems to work. The biggest problem we have is not so much concern. The problem is staffing the times that we're open. Our staff has shrunk a little bit, and we never had a lot, of staff anyway. So sometimes scheduling is a problem. And we do discuss, the infection rate and the concerns that we do have, but so far, everybody's on board with this appointment level, I think.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that we had a staff member resign.
Yeah, that was fairly recent. Sarah Phoenix left. She was library assistant in circulation. So, yeah, we don't have a lot of depth, in our staff. Somebody like that resigns, and we're kind of scrambling to schedule. I'm waiting for civil service to finish another canvas. There's supposed to be 3 people left on the list, but I don't think there are, which means we could hire provisionally at this point as long as we got less than 3 people available from the list. So I'm waiting for that response. I was supposed to get it today. So we're hopeful that we can fill that position pretty soon. One of the problems too is, there's so much training that goes on for just the circulation staff people. It takes literally months to get somebody up to speed. So sometimes we're sort of on thin ice when it comes to having enough people to open.
I saw in Evelyn's report that UHLS has negotiated for libraries to continue their ancestry.com, but would pay themselves. Do we know how much it will cost for us to continue ancestry.com?
Yeah, we have already. But I don't have the figure, not at the, Joy, how much did that cost?
The figure for ProQuest on the bills is the cost for the Ancestry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything being outrageous. So for
No.
for what period of time? For a year or?
For the year.
Yep,
Wow.
for the year.
It's very popular here with some people, and it would have stopped suddenly at the end of December, and since we knew we wanted to continue anyway, we just went ahead and continued.
Will there still be full access from home? Or will it revert to only full access at the library itself?
No, I think there's full access at home, isn't there, Joy?
I think it remains the same.
Yeah, I have to check it myself. It just started up beginning of January.
That's great.
And I was accessing it here at the library, so I haven't tried it from home. I haven't heard anybody complain yet. So
And,
I'm assuming it is, available at home.
and if Central Library ever gets that amount of money back again, it's on the priority list for it to be put back in system-wide, so.
Well, yeah, there was, that's originally what the committee said, but then they kind of backed out of that at another point. But
Well,
I think, we might be living with some cuts from the state for a while.
what I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the amount of money that was then reinstated, shall we say, to Central Library wasn't enough to cover the system-wide subscription. So it was decided to use it in a different manner because the subscription is like at least twice as much as the monies that were returned.
Well, that's the excuse that they used.
Okie dokie.
But, in point of fact, no, it wasn't quite the amount that was needed, but you could have made up that with, contributions from the rest of us, and it wouldn't have cost as much as a separate subscription does, for us. But anyway, I was Ancestry.com's biggest fan, so I argued long and hard with the committee.
Well, as you know, because I was questioning you about it previously when it was going to be discontinued. I think it's great that you found the money. We're able to work it out.
Yeah.
I think there are people, and I think there are people who would use it if they knew it was available, who probably just don't know, because there is a lot of interest.
The library actually did a program on Ancestry and some of the other, what do they call them, platforms. There was a program on literally how to use the Ancestry and how to use some of the other programs and what the results and how to interpret results.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about it is you don't have to, go and do your whole family tree. I mean, if the question comes up about some, long lost uncle, you can easily go in and search, for half an hour or so and find lots of information. So it is great for, casual searches as well as full searches of, genealogical searches.
Right, I played with it. I don't research my family history. I found out my grandmother had a child I didn't know about. I found out my father played basketball in college. I mean, it's kind of fun to just play with a little.
Yeah. You find out interesting things.
Anything else for Paul?
Got a question, if I may. Two questions. One is, I understand somebody recently has chosen to leave the library. Do you think that the policies for having people come into the library affected their decision, or do you think there are other factors that affected their decision to go to leave the library?
There's a variety of factors that I consider. When there's the simple, one figure of number of positive results, from testing. But there's other things. I mean, there's, it was discovered in tracing that this large majority of these cases, 70% or so, are coming from family gatherings, and not from public places that are, using precautions. They're not coming even from the gym for the most part. They're coming from family gatherings. And we've just been through, the whole holiday season, which was a lot of family gatherings. And I think that's where some of the numbers are coming up from.
So I'm sorry, does that mean that your understanding is that COVID then was a factor that influenced this person's decision to leave the library's employ?
Oh, we only had one case like that. We have someone who wanted to take a leave because of just the fact that they were older, they had health issues, and yeah, I mean, that COVID was definitely, in that particular case. This other case, no, it was money.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I was trying to understand perhaps some of the background and what motivated this change in status. The second question I had was, you talked briefly about the annual appeal and how it started very, very slow, and then all of a sudden we got this huge return for some unknown reason. The returns we've gotten to date, how would you say that compares to last year or the year before?
Well, we get donations even from this annual appeal almost all year. I would have to say, where we are exactly this time as opposed to exactly last year, and I don't really know off the top of my head. I kind of look at it as a much longer thing.
Okay.
But I would have to say that after we received the 85 donations, we're a lot further ahead than I thought.
We're not in the hole where you thought we were before, so.
Right.
Good, okay. Thank you.
I've seen some increases in what people are giving this year. I think some people are having gotten a second stimulus. We maybe got something from that. I've seen other instances where maybe we got less because people aren't doing as well. There are also tax benefits to not giving last year, but giving this year. I don't know how big an impact that has. I'm not sure that affects a lot of people. But so far we've seen a range of donation from $5 to $5,000. And I really cherish the $5 donations because those people, even though they couldn't give a lot, wanted to give what they could and went to the trouble to do so. It means they care about us.
Thank you.
Yeah, this campaign has always been, for the smaller donations. I mean, that's where a lot of it, has come from over the years.
Anything else for Paul? Okay, we'll move on to observations and community feedback. Anybody have any? Okay. Last item, old business, new business. Evelyn, is there anything new on the reopening plan such? I know, Paul, you made some changes.
Um,
You had a document with some changes.
Yeah, we did make a lot of changes when we, went back to an appointment level because we didn't have that in the original plan. The only change probably we should make is, quarantine recommendation has gone from 14 days to 10, recommended by the CDC. But that's about it.
One of the plans that you put in the folder for tonight, it had some red items in it. Those weren't changes that you were proposing.
Yeah, that was that copy. Those were actually made when I met with Evelyn, what is it, about a month or so ago. She had made some suggestions. We made those changes, but I had them still in red. They should have been in black.
Yeah, I think we approved those too. So
We approved those last time.
I believe so. But
well, actually, it was helpful to have them in red. But
yeah.
Okay. So
besides, we need to keep, each of our iterations clear that we've added or subtracted, and just for the record.
Any other update on that, Evelyn?
Not on that, no. So far, Paul's put in, I think, and we've talked about all those little changes, and I think we're standing there, and I think it's great because it amplifies the responsibilities of the patron too. And I think that's been very important, and hopefully that it works for staff having that.
Well, from what Paul had said about the reasons are for our most recent staff loss, COVID wasn't a factor, so we must be doing something right in keeping staff safe and comfortable.
Yes, and personally, again, I want to be careful not to speak for anybody else, but I truly appreciate the fact that staff is coming in and going through this and is willing to keep it open at the level it is open. We're many libraries, like Paul said, are not doing that. And I think we're an important source of service. So staff has my appreciation.
And they have mine as well. I appreciate their dedication to our patrons. Any other?
Actually, I had a couple other questions if you don't, for now, still written down. Paul, and maybe you know this because it was something that went system-wide. Is our library considering connecting with the Ronald McDonald fundraiser?
I have not looked into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about it.
Supposedly it was sent to all the member libraries. It was a way that there's a connection between the Ronald McDonald, the House Foundation, and getting kids to read, and libraries would then share in the proceeds. I understand some of the libraries have joined in on it, but I didn't know if we.
It wasn't discussed in the director's meeting.
Okay.
Maybe this Friday. I'm not sure.
Okay, then I'll check in later. Also, I know there's some changes in the sick leave law. I don't want to try and say that one fast or 3 times. Do we need to update the sick leave policy?
No, I don't think so. Our policy actually exceeds some of the recommendations, but the other thing is, generally speaking, we put the sick leave into effect. It's something actually that employees pay as they go, a small amount into the fund, and then can use that as reimbursement for sick leave. It does exceed the requirements of the state, but libraries are not actually required to participate. But we elected to do that.
Okay, I know I'll get some more information tomorrow, the webinar, but I was just curious at this point, what, so I can go in and know what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I don't know what libraries are participating and what aren't, but libraries are not required.
Okay,
But as I said, our sick leave policy, exceeds those basic requirements anyway.
okay. And again, I understand there's some new additions to the law. And it's their requirements. Okay. Thank you.
Marie, I'm going to have to leave this call, and I thought if it's appropriate now, I could catch you guys up on friend stuff.
Well, I was just about to move on to public comment.
Here I am.
And
So
we appreciate it.
as you probably realize, with the fact that the library has gone to appointments only, it has necessitated the closing of the bookseller, and which is, a major source of income for the Friends. What we've done since your last board meeting is have 2 pop-up sales at the winter market, which was part of the farmers market on December 13th and on December 20th, which were, we didn't price books, we offered books by donation only, and did really well, and people were really glad to see us there. The farmers market will allow us again to come back, but we're real concerned, the volunteers who have been staffing these things, we're going to wait and see based on COVID kinds of things, whether we want to go public again. The farmers market, for those of you who haven't been there, has been doing a really good job of keeping people safe, limiting the number of people who come in, and managing the traffic once inside the facility. So so that's activity since that time. We also, I think I may have mentioned this at the last board meeting, but I don't remember. We gave Paul a check for $3,000 to pay for additional ebooks and hotspots. And we also, as some of you know, given what you've said and given our sense of what the library staff has been up to and having to deal with, we also gave gifts of appreciation to each of the staff members. So I don't remember whether I said that we were going to do it in December, but we did it in December. And so my question to Paul is just one question. Can you, in fact, earmark this $3,000 for ebooks and hotspots so that it doesn't go into the general fund? Because it was real important to
we
the board.
track that sort of thing. And matter of fact, we've got hotspots already and they're being processed. So yeah, we can easily track that.
Yeah, it would be helpful to us to know what happened so that I can go back to my board and say, yes, this is it, in fact what happened. One of the questions that came up when we had a discussion of hotspots is how expensive it was and whether you had in fact, it wasn't the device itself, but the and I don't have the language for this, the
Service?
the service that goes along with it, and whether there were other services that could be explored, because I think then it was something like $200 a hotspot or something like that. So this device and the service. Seeing how it, you know, one of the reasons that we did this is because of the popularity of hotspots, and given what Carolyn said about people's access to the online courses and you know, ebooks and those kinds of things, there are many more people who are are virtually taking advantage of the library, and so to make that easier and easier is really something we all share in wanting to do. Are there other services that are available and might be more competitive price-wise? Paul?
I'm sorry?
Are there other services that are available and might be, I said more competitive, I meant cheaper.
We have we have Mobile Beacon as a service because they were the cheapest at the time. So I think they still are, as far as I know. There might be a couple other services out there, but they seem to be more expensive.
Okay.
So I think we're good with Mobile Beacon at this point.
Okay, thanks. So again, thank you for letting me participate. I'm going to say goodbye to you all, and I'm very glad that the fundraising campaign was successful. And I think one of the reasons that you got 85 all at once has to do with post office.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that on the same day, everybody said, oh, right, I'm going to do it because I just got a Christmas card that was mailed on the 22nd of December. So, you know, there's a lot of factors at work in terms of how things come in, besides the fact that people say, oh, yeah, I was going to contribute something to the library. So, Happy New Year, all of you, and see you next month.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Freda, for taking your time to just come to our board meetings.
And thank you for
and everything else.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
So unless anybody has anything else, I'll announce the date and time, of the next meeting, February 9th at 5:30, and we can adjourn.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.